So my name's Tim Jones. One of the things I do is to run the Innovation Leaders Research Programme, which is looking at not just which company is the most innovative, but now we're looking at which cities are the most innovative. It's really about an overlap of several things. It's about whether or not a city is moving things forward, whether that's from technology or from learning or from academia. It's about whether a city is taking a global role and not just a regional role. So is it connected? Is it attracting talent? What it is that creates the sweet spot. Not just the technology, not just the talent, but what is it that makes people work together? So is it the tolerance? Is it openness? Is it collaboration? What is it that really gets the people within a city working together and driving it forward? It's about sharing some insights around what it is that makes one city more innovative than another. It's about looking at which cities around the world are probably going to be the leaders in the future, but also it's about taking lessons from the past and seeing how they can maybe help us inform what we want to do in making our cities centres of growth. So when you're looking at the different policies, the different approaches that different cities are taking, there's a big sort of wish list of what people would like to achieve. It's interesting for me, if you actually go back 500 years, there's places like Florence that were doing a lot of what we're after today. So the idea of collaboration, that was happening in Florence. Leonardo was working in workshops for 10 years before he really made it to fame, and collaboration, really important part. There was a lot of connection between the city growing and the investment that was coming on from the Medici and people like that. But also Florence is a centre of technology creation. People often think of it just as a centre for artists, but actually you had Galileo, you had a whole load of inventions around optics, astrology and science taking place at the same time as everything else. So what people are trying to create today in the sort of the global hubs of innovation arguably existed 500 years ago. And the challenge is, how do we move that forward? So if you look at the cities that are really having impact today, the San Franciscos, the Bostons always come top of the list. But for me, there's also interest in looking at places like Stockholm, places like Copenhagen, Bangalore, other locations in the world that are maybe not so big in the popular mindset, but are also having significant impact. So somewhere like Stockholm has got a really high ratio of universities and student activities and startups. You go to somewhere like Bangalore, and clearly you've got a lot of IT investment, but equally well, if you go to places like Tokyo, you've got a city there that keeps on reinventing itself. And with the Olympics coming up, there's a lot of expectation about a whole new raft of innovation coming out of Tokyo. The challenge looking forward is what are going to be some of the issues that really set the future cities apart. If you look at how the world's urbanizing, if you look at some of the big shifts that are taking place around how people need to live together in a more sustainable way, then we're starting to really push the boundaries of what's possible. And you've got overcrowding, you've got slums, you've got lots of challenges going on. So some of the cities that are sort of interesting to me on the radar are places like Santiago in Chile, which seems to be attracting, certainly from a South America perspective, a lot of momentum. In Africa, Nairobi is increasingly being seen as the tech hub for East Africa, but equally well in other parts of the world, whether it's Australia with Melbourne, whether it's Vietnam with Ho Chi Minh City, or even if it's Canada with Toronto. There's other cities that are playing at a higher and higher level, and maybe they'll be the San Franciscos, the Tokyos, the Bostons of the future. One of the provocations as to why this whole project is taking place is that it's taking the insights from the innovation leaders' work from the past 10, 15 years in terms of what it is that makes an organisation innovative, and overlaying that with more recent work we've been doing in terms of the future of cities as part of Future Agenda. And there we've been looking at what are the common elements around the world that cities are facing as future challenges. Everybody has common issues, whether it's dealing with growth, dealing with water, dealing with food. But in terms of the ambitions around being safer, being more smarter, being more accessible, what is it that cities need to do differently that necessarily aren't lessons from the past? So that overlap is where a lot of the interest in this question about which will be the future world's most innovative cities, has really come together.